There's an acronym that has become increasingly common for children like Abed in Gaza. WCNSF. Wounded child, no surviving family members.
Because he happens to be such a fan of acronym, I hope that he realizes that there is an acronym to describe him and his ally. They are called CK.
It is time for everyone to step up. And for those who have already given, and given generously, give more. The United States has for decades been the largest single country provider of assistance for Palestinians. Today, I'm announcing an additional $404 million, even as it confronts an enemy that started this war with the barbaric slaughter of civilians on October 7th, an enemy that conducts operations from schools, from hospitals, from camps of displaced families.
Hello, thank you very much for watching my videos. This is a polite request. Before I start, it's a humble request to all of you that please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed it, do that. If you have already subscribed it, please shout about it, spread the word, ask people to share our videos, because if you want to challenge and fight the fake narrative being built by the mainstream media, I think the channel like Janta Ka Reporter must be supported by one and all. That's the least you can do. So coming back to today's topic. So today I am going to talk about US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He was in one of his Arab colonies. I'm talking about Jordan. So he was in Jordan. Why he was in Jordan? He was in Jordan to raise more money to rebuild Gaza. Yes. I mean, the war hasn't stopped. Israelis continue to destroy Gaza with the support from America. But America has already embarked on a plan to rebuild Gaza. Only 40,000 people have been killed. Only 40,000. Only 70% of those 40,000, I mean 28,000 people, among them are children and women. You remember how global media reacted to the fake story of 40 Israeli children being burnt alive in an oven? We know that that was not true. But what is true is that 28,000 children and women have been brutally murdered by a thug regime of Israel. And yet, it doesn't bother likes of Blinken and Joe Biden. It doesn't bother them. So he is in Jordan to raise money, to raise more money to rebuild Gaza. Yes, that's what he said. Before I play his 10-minute long rant and his appeal to his friends, to America's friends, to contribute, to be generous, to show their generosity and contribute with a lot of money to rebuild Gaza, I want to state just how problematic his speech was in so many ways. He starts by saying that America is going to give more than $400 million in that fund to rebuild Gaza. Yes, $400 million. A lot of money, isn't it? After you have helped Israel, a thug regime, flatten Gaza, kill tens of thousands of innocent people, and destroyed every single facility, now America wants to redeem itself by paying little over $400 million. You know how much America gave to Israel in April this year? In just one instance, America gave $26 billion worth weapons on 20th of April. America gives $26 billion worth military weapons to Israel to kill Palestinians and destroy every single facilities in Gaza, and then comes up to say that what a nice country it is that it is now giving $400 million to rebuild Gaza, and expects other countries, particularly the Arab countries, to contribute, to show their generosity and contribute more. And this at a time when war hasn't stopped. So that's one element. That $400 million to Gaza, but $26 billion to Israel to kill Palestinians and destroy every single infrastructure in Gaza. Then he mentions 3 case studies, 3 children, and he mentions an acronym. He says WCNSF, he says, which means that wounded children with no surviving family. Because he happens to be such a fan of acronym, I hope that he realizes that there is an acronym to describe him and his allies. They are called CK. That's what these people are. And they are CK. Or you can say BK. BABY. So everywhere he mentions, so he refers to 7th of October attack, suddenly he remembers that it was a barbaric attack. He uses the word barbaric attack. But nowhere does he mention the brutal murder of those children as barbaric act by Israel. Nowhere does he mention. They were just killed. Thankfully, he didn't say that they all committed suicide. That's the disingenuity of America that this conflict has exposed. We all knew about America. I mean, I had absolutely no doubt. I have covered America long enough to know that America doesn't care about anybody. American leaders just care about their own self-interest. My hunch is the reason that they have suddenly become so quick and they are moving with lightning speed to raise money to rebuild Gaza, even though there is no ceasefire, is maybe there might be a plan to make lots of money before American voters, boot these people out, because there is a real likelihood that these people will not return to the government. So the avenue to make money will stop. And I think they just want to make as much money as possible by hook or by crook. That's what my hunch is, right? Anyway, I'll let you watch and decide for yourself.
We are grateful to King Abdullah, to President El-Sisi, to Secretary General Guterres for convening this conference, for their tireless efforts to help end this conflict, and to help the many children, women, and men who are so desperately in need. And as we all know, and as we've all been discussing throughout the day, the crisis in Gaza is immense. More than 1 million people have been displaced from Rafah alone in the last month alone, many of whom had already been uprooted multiple times. 95% of people there cannot access clean drinking water. Hunger is everywhere. Virtually everyone in Gaza depends on aid to survive. Most of Gaza's sanitation system has been destroyed. Fewer than a dozen of Gaza's 40 hospitals are open. And, as we know and have heard, more than 270 humanitarian workers have been killed. One of those humanitarians was Jamal Abu Kawak, a longtime UNRWA staffer in Gaza who for years was the United States' main local contact, and for many, a friend. He was killed last month after evacuating Rafah. He was looking for shelter for his family. He's survived by his wife and his 4 children. The single most effective step we can take to address the urgent humanitarian challenges in Gaza is to reach an immediate and ultimately enduring ceasefire. 11 days ago, President Biden set out a comprehensive proposal to do precisely that. In its first 6 weeks, the proposal would provide for a full ceasefire, the pullback of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, the release of a number of hostages, including women, the elderly, and wounded, a dramatic surge in aid deliveries, the return of civilians to their homes or neighborhoods in all parts of Gaza, and it would also initiate negotiations toward a permanent ceasefire. The second phase would see the release of all remaining living hostages, the withdrawal of all Israeli forces from Gaza, the implementation of a permanent cessation of hostilities, and the final phase would launch a massive reconstruction effort in Gaza. When I met Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday in Israel, he reaffirmed his support and his commitment to bringing this proposal across the finish line. The same day, yesterday, the United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution sponsored by the United States in support of the proposal. 14 members voted for it. Not one country opposed it. It's just the latest vote of support the proposal's received from around the world, from virtually everyone around this table. the Arab League, countries throughout the region. Today, as we gather, one and only one thing stands in the way of this deal happening, and that's Hamas. So, my primary and first message today to every government, to every multilateral institution, to every humanitarian organization that wants to relieve the massive suffering in Gaza, get Hamas to take the deal. Press them publicly. Press them privately. And Hamas should not require much convincing. After all, the proposal is nearly identical to one that Hamas itself proposed on May the 6th. Having said that, we're gathered today because all of us, I believe, recognize the imperative of taking bold, immediate actions to help civilians in Gaza and to do it now. And here are a few thoughts on how we can do that going forward. First, give more aid. You've heard this already from our colleagues at the UN. Only 1/3 of the current United Nations appeal is funded. That leaves a shortfall of approximately $2.3 billion. Every country can help fill this gap. Yet some who've expressed great concern over the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza, including countries with the capacity to give a lot, have provided very little or nothing at all. It is time for everyone to step up. And for those who've already given, and given generously, give more. The United States has for decades been the largest single country provider of assistance for Palestinians. Today, I'm announcing an additional $404 million in new aid to Palestinians, in addition to the more than $1.8 billion in development, economic, and humanitarian aid that the United States has provided since 2021. Second, let's work together to ensure that more aid gets into Gaza and, once it's in Gaza, reaches the people who need it the most, by land, by air, by sea. This has been our intense focus since the conflict started. Particularly in recent months, Israel has taken some important steps to open more crossings to address obstacles to the delivery of assistance. But it can and must do more. As we conveyed directly to the Israeli government, it is crucial to speed up the inspection of trucks and reduce backlogs, to provide greater clarity on and shorten the list of prohibited goods, to increase visas for aid workers and to process them more quickly, to create clearer, more effective channels for humanitarian groups to deconflict with IDF operations, to surge life-saving medicine and equipment, to provide everything necessary to repair water and sanitation systems. And Israel must take further steps to reduce civilian casualties, even as it confronts an enemy that started this war with the barbaric slaughter of civilians on October 7th, an enemy that conducts operations from schools, from hospitals, from camps of displaced families, an enemy that cynically hides behind or underneath the people it purports to represent. I think we all know there is no time to waste, given the hell that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are enduring every single day. 10-year-old Abed lost his parents, his brother, and other family members. They were killed in an airstrike that was targeting terrorists. He said, "When my mom and dad were alive, I used to sleep. Now I can't sleep anymore." There's an acronym that has become increasingly common for children like Abed in Gaza. WCNSF. Wounded child, no surviving family members. 6-year-old Fadi had cystic fibrosis. When the conflict began, his parents could no longer get the food and medicine that he needed to remain healthy. Before he was evacuated to the United States from Gaza just last month, he was so severely malnourished that his legs could no longer support the weight of his body. 11-year-old Dunya, she lost her parents, her brother, her sister when their home was struck in Khan Yunis. She said this: "I lost my leg, I lost my family, but I still have dreams. I want to get a prosthetic leg. I want to travel. I want to become a doctor. I want for this war to end and our children to live in peace. These three children, Abed, Fadi, Dunya, and all the Palestinian civilians suffering in Gaza, we know they're not numbers, they're not abstractions. They're human beings, they're children, they're women, they're men, who all want the same things that we want for ourselves and for our loved ones. Just like the people who were murdered in Israel on October 7th, just like the hostages who continue to be held in Gaza to this day. So we all have to recommit to doing our part to ensure that these individuals can not merely survive, but that they can live in peace. They can have their rights respected. They can have an opportunity to realize their dreams. And we have to commit to something else. We have to commit together to try to extricate the poison in our common well, the poison of dehumanization, the inability to see the humanity in the other. When that happens, when hearts harden to the extent that they have on all sides, then the worst becomes possible and the best very, very difficult to achieve. But if we can see the humanity in everyone and commit to do everything we possibly can to uphold that humanity, then everything's possible. So let's do more than just call for a better future for Palestinians and Israelis. Let's help build that path to the future, do it together, and we can start by maximizing all of the efforts that we're engaged in to help the people who need it and help them now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.